Welcome back to the channel. I came up with a strategy that is built together of watching different players I've come across do parts of this, and also with some of my own testing in the Aegis scenario. And I wanted to make a video on this using a game I just had the other day in the Normandie to illustrate how the strategy works. I'm not going to say that I've come up with this strategy because I'm almost certain there are probably people who have been doing this long before me, um, but I wanted to share my thoughts on it, share my view on it, how it's played, because it's a very effective way to carry out the operation. And if you have a decent team working with you, or if you are in a seven-man division with clan members or friends, and you're all communicating and working together, you can have a very, very, very strong impact on the game and almost guarantee 5 stars most times. Really, the only times you wouldn't would be a 4-star if the shores sinks and you cannot pick up the captain. So what I'm starting off here by doing is, like I said, in the Normandy, I turn to the left and face to the northwest, while engaging the ships that spawn over to the east. Now, I'm not going to be closing the distance with those ships, and I'll explain why in a little bit here. Main focus right now would just be I've slowed down, actually I've stopped, and I'm providing fire support to my cruisers and destroyers to deal with those cruisers and battleships that spawn to the east. I don't tend to shoot the destroyers in a battleship unless it's the only ship that is left, just because they're harder to hit, and, well, I like damage numbers, and they don't really give those compared to a cruiser. So, as you can see, I'm just looking for targets of opportunity to knock out the various cruisers that spawn. We hit the previous Alba quite hard. We didn't get shots into the second one. No, yes we did. Yes we did. We got shots into the second one, didn't hit him as hard, and then another big volley into the third. And at this point I'm going to start creeping forward a little bit. Lower speed, not going to rush north, and I'll explain again why in a moment here, but I start heading north. It is important to start heading north when there's only a couple ships left over from that eastern group, because as you see now on the map, and this is what I was going to get to, is the northern group spawns. But the way that they spawn, at least from what I've noticed and seen, if I'm correct in my assumptions here, is they spawn right up in that AB 1, 2, 3 corner. They're always there, just not spotted. So it comes out to they will be seen when they engage your team, or if you have a carrier on your team who goes up and spots them. But they're always there as far as I can tell. So by turning north and engaging here, what I'm doing is I'm helping my team, again, deal with these cruisers that come from the north almost as soon as they spawn, because what I notice a lot of the time, and as you see on the map, is we have that Fuso down in G5 who's heading east like you normally would in this operation. And I'm not saying he's doing anything wrong, I'm just pointing out he's a good example to point where ships tend to go. The issue is by putting yourself down in that position, the island chain itself, this is the map mountain range after all, does get in your way from having shots at this northern group, and you spend a lot of time rotating your guns and rotating your ship, trying to get into a position where you can then support your team in dealing with them, which isn't very effective because you get less opportunities to do damage, and you're also not as impactful as you could be. But by heading north like I am here, there isn't a moment where I'm not able to engage these ships. It's just a case of picking which one I want to engage and holding fire in case they're not giving me a good, profile to shoot or anything like that. But by putting myself up in this position here, I'm much more impactful to this group than that Fuso would be down south. And again, not saying this to criticize the player, just pointing out because he's in a good position that I can use as an example. Something to note, we are not even 4.5 minutes into this game, and I'm already at 110,000 damage. Granted, there has been a lot of Ishizuchi spawn this run. I think the 3 or 4 that spawned up here, that's more than I've generally seen. But it gives you an idea of how the positioning and focusing the targets that are a bigger threat to your team as a whole can go a very, very long way in getting you a good result. So the Ishizuchi dies, and that's this northern group taken care of. And as you can see, they all died in the D and C4 grid squares. Normally, there are still cruisers left when they reach where the first group dies down in E6. So you're saving a lot of time and hit points and everything by dealing with these guys so quickly, so fast up north here. It really moves the pace of the operation along significantly because it means your team can change their focus to the convoy cruisers here. That's what I will refer to them as. It's the different cruisers escorting the convoy here, the convoy cruisers. They can focus their attention to these cruisers and get the second stage of the operation where you are escorting the convoy as a team instead of trying to take it back much easier. Makes it much easier. So I'm just sailing north here, and I'm going to be shooting for the gap in the islands just to the left there, on the left of the screen, because the battleships spawn, the Ishizuchi and Kongo spawn up on the map edge there when all of the convoy cruisers die. That's something to mark down and to keep in mind. Those battleships do not spawn until the last convoy cruiser is dead. So if you have a team of players who are working all together on Discord or on TeamSpeak and you're all working to make the operation as successful as possible, if you have a couple people who have a lot of hit points at this stage in the game, which hopefully you should, or who are in decent positions to just tank a little bit, what you can do is actually save just one of these cruisers and don't kill it, and allow your battleship, and if he has a support in the form of a destroyer like I do here, or a cruiser or another battleship, doesn't matter, the chance to come north and get into a much better position to engage with the battleships that spawn. So as you can see, I'm not heading east. I'm not going to be turning east to go ahead and engage those cruisers on the far side and chase them. I'll shoot at them from here because I have the range for it, but if you didn't have the range, I wouldn't chase them. It's simple as that. It just... You move yourself from a good position, as you'll see in a couple seconds here, into a worse one where your impact is reduced quite heavily. So we hit the Kuma pretty hard. 2 shells, well, 3 shells hit, 2 of them pen, and that's 2 citadels, and we kick him pretty hard. And here's those battleships. Now that the Kuma is dead, the battleships spawn. Like I said, once the last convoy cruiser dies, the battleships make their break for it. The battleships will always take a turn to their left, going east at my right when they spawn in. The Kongo, the Ishizuchi, the Fuso, they all do it. So what you can do is take advantage of that in the Ishizuchi's case, because it has a very weakly armored citadel, at least for facing battleships of this tier, you can punish it pretty hard, as I just did. And you'll notice we're just over 8 minutes in the game, and we're at 200 and almost 20,000 damage, which is huge. So I'm looking at the T-61 here, making sure he's doing okay with the Kongo. I see his torpedoes out. I think he's probably fine, so I go ahead and shoot at the Ishizuchi. And I then turn east myself to start heading to the east. Ishizuchi dies, Kongo dies almost immediately afterwards, and that's 2 of the 3 battleships that need to be dead for one of the primary tasks, secondary tasks, almost instantly. They died in the grid squares that they spawned in, which doesn't happen very often from what I've seen. A lot of the times if a cruiser or a destroyer come up here, they just don't have the firepower, even with torpedoes, to take both of them out this fast. But if you send a battleship, especially a fast one like the Normandie, or one with very good guns like the Ismail, it is not a problem. It really, really speeds up this stage of the operation. You're going to hear that a lot. Fuso's getting hit pretty hard. I think our New Mexico down there is putting some good shots into him alongside of our Fuso. Who are cruising with the main convoy group. I take a couple shells at him, a couple salvos, nothing too major. He's at a decently long range. These guns seem to drop pen somewhat fast, but maybe that's just me. Also, at these maximum ranges, they don't have the greatest accuracy, but some decent hits. Almost 4,000 damage just over with 2 pens isn't bad. So the Fuso gets wiped out. And that's the secondary task done in under 10 minutes, which is not very common, at least from my experiences playing Operation Aegis. It really doesn't tend to happen that fast. Um, my next focus is going to be that Ishizuchi there, the Mari Ishizuchi. Again, it's an Ishizuchi. Its citadel is not well protected, so at this range, and him being broadside to me means I can do a lot of damage to him. At this point, as long as the Liberty ships that were escorting the transports, as long as they survive and get to the end, this is a 5-star. The Shores, I believe, still has a lot of health and is also disengaging in a way from the fight. He's quite far from the opponents. Um, so there's not a risk of him dying and we don't have to save the captain. So as long as the Liberty ships make it to the end, we've won this. This is a 5-star. It's really straightforward. And we hit the Ishizuchi pretty hard there. Double Citadel again, like I said. It's a very easy ship to kick. Although I do like mine, so it's a little bit sad to see that happen. And we're just going to do it again. None of the cruisers are giving me the best angle to shoot. The destroyer certainly is not giving me a good angle to shoot. So I just figured, alright, let's just keep farming the battleship. It's a big, easy target, and boom, there we go. We knock him out. Just over 11 minutes in, and we're at 200 and almost 68,000 damage. If this was a random battle, this would be my highest ever damage game. Yamato holds that spot at just over 260 right now, so 4 tiers lower, and in an operation, granted, it's not PvP, but it gives you an idea of what you can do. And the Liberty ships make it into the end, so we've won. That's a 5-star, except I got a salvo out right before they got in, and Miyoko explodes. Here is the result screen. 307,150 damage. We get C-star, and we get major contribution for doing over 35% of the damage that the team did. That means the team got just shy of a total of 1 million damage, and we were there for over a third of it, which is really impressive. It's a really, really good result. I don't get major contribution too often, just because it's not the easiest award to get, in my opinion. But this was a really solid round, and really solidified my belief that this way to play on Aegis is how you should play your faster, your more capable battleships. Things like Ismail, Normandie, Dunkirk, some of your faster cruisers like Trento and Alba, both of which I have had extremely good success doing a very similar strategy on here. Top of the team, not much surprise there. 1600 base XP in an operation is not bad. Our Perth did extremely well. Congratulations to him for doing as well as he did. Very nicely done. That's what it comes out to. Positioning and knowing how the different spawning mechanics work and at what time to focus what ships really just lets this I'm going to call it this strategy have such a devastatingly strong impact on how the battle is carried out, because you have a large amount of control in how much damage your team ends up taking, and you have a large amount of control in how fast the primary and secondary directives get completed, which is really, it's nice, because I feel like there's some operations like Naval Station Newport and Raptor Rescue, which are okay, but they're very linear. I mean, granted, Aegis, every ship spawns almost the same every single time. It's not like it changes much. But those operations, the enemy, at least in Newport's case, I just find it's boring, because there isn't a very good opportunity for you to get onto a flank like there is here and have this much impact without singling yourself out. On this one, because of the way that the enemies push on Aegis, you have much better opportunities and situations where you can put yourself to not get singled out and also have super strong impact. So that's the video. I just wanted to show this to you and go over the results of this strategy that I will be using going forward. Um, I'd like to hear if anyone else tries it in different ship types and classes. Let me know how it goes. Let me know if there's anything you would recommend changing about how the push is carried. If there's any different ways you would focus targets, let me know. I am all ears. I am curious to see what your guys' thoughts are. I appreciate you guys watching, and I will see you next time.